staying out of sight so long.
I have a question about that. I mean, can you like, you use that cube, the morph cube, to give you the power to morph again? Can that be used to like let the morph back or something, or is it like a one-time trip and then you're fucked?
You see, it's not really made clear. I would assume that, you probably could, but they're on a Yerk planet right now.
So they just don't have that tool, even if
Correct.
you would do the job. Okay,
Yeah.
all right, fair enough.
So, despite the fact that that could be a potential solution, not in the cards at this point.
I see.
So he's trapped as a Taxon, and he's really
needs to be
fucking
about
upset about it.
20%
Because there's
cooler.
also like a bit of a cultural taboo of letting yourself getting trapped in a morph, because you're like not supposed to do that. You're kind of a fucking idiot if you let that happen. So in addition to just like being a fucking Taxon, you're also like a disgrace to your people on top of it.
God damn.
So good times all around. Arbrun is fucking miserable. So he helps, Elfangor get out of there, but then he's like, Elfangor, you have to kill me.
Yeah.
I cannot live as a fucking Taxon. And Elfangor's like,
that's a little racist against Taxons. They're a beautiful species.
maybe.
He doesn't want to be a
improvement,
cannibal.
Right.
demon
You
worm.
don't really want to be
I
a
don't want to
fucking
be a
worm.
cultural imperialist.
Yeah.
And yet here we are.
Yeah, here we are.
So when Elfangor refuses to kill him, he tries to like trick him into doing it by pulling a gun on him and like a Draken beam.
It needs to be
and
about
trying to like,
20%
I'm gonna
cooler.
kill you if you don't kill me first. And in the ensuing carnage, the ship
improvement, darling.
crashes, and Elfangor blacks out. And he wakes up a couple hours later. Arbrun is gone, and so he's trying to find where he went. And he ends up, what's it fucking called? They end up in the Living Hive. So
I don't like that.
So the Living Hive,
I played
he
a
finds
Hollow
out,
Knight.
is that this is like a sentient part of the planet that is responsible for creating all of the Taxons. And unknown to the Andalites, there's a whole rebel group of Taxons who refuse to subjugate themselves to the Yerks and have been subtly trying to resist them on the Taxon homeworld.
I didn't expect this from the Taxon.
And now Arbrun, who
Turns out they're based and red-pilled as shit.
It needs to be about
Arbrun, who
20%
knows
cooler.
about the Yerk technology, is able to broker and help them get more information and stage a coup on the Yerk base with the free Taxon.
We need a lecture on Taxon ancient politics and history and their full 9 yards.
Well, here's the thing: Taxons don't really have much in terms of like technology or anything. They're just worms that eat things because they're just constantly hungry. So this is a suicide mission. This is basically the last bastion of free Taxons making one final stand, attempting to just kind of die with dignity instead of letting their culture and people be wiped out by this invading species.
So they do have some sort of intelligence.
They're intelligent.
Okay.
It's just when you're hungry 24/7, have tiny little centipede legs,
Right.
you're not really able to do all that much in terms of progressing societies. So these Taxons are like, okay, this is fucking bad, but we're gonna just like go out, being based instead of just letting ourselves die. And that's kind of the idea. And Elfangor feels kind of bad because like, if I help with this, like my friend is going to die. Like he's definitely going to die in this conflict. But with nothing left to do, they're like, well, if we go attack this base, even if we die, in the distraction, you can save the humans, come back here, grab the time matrix, and leave.
Fix all this, potentially,
Correct.
with that, yeah.
So they go forward with the plan. It's a fucking crazy bloodbath. He goes to Alaron's ship, and Lauren and Chapman are still in there, just doing nothing, waiting for somebody to show up, because the Yerks haven't done anything with them yet. They're kind of just waiting to be questioned.
Fucking humans.
And he has to fight a bunch of Hork-Bajir controllers who are guarding the ship. But he's just a cadet. So he's kind of outmatched by like tons and tons and tons of fucking controllers. And then Subvisor 7, but again, the guy who like found him initially, is like, you're still fucking alive, you piece of shit. And they have a big fucking fight. And like he's losing, and all of a sudden Alaron comes in Hork-Bajir morph and just starts killing all the guys. I'm like, what? One of the fucking Hork-Bajir was our guy. So they're going at it and stuff. And so they eventually capture.
Wait, how did Alaron get to morph again?
No, Arbrun
It's an improvement,
was the
darling.
one trapped in morph. Alaron is their captain.
Okay.
He has not been trapped in a morph, but he morphed at some point to Hork-Bajir to stay stealth. And so when he saw the commotion happening, he came over and assisted Elfangor turn the tide of the
It needs to be
tides
about
of the
20%
scuffle.
cooler.
And so they capture Subvisor 7 and leave the planet in their ship to go get the time matrix. So they leave the landing site of the planet where they're being held to go get the time matrix. during this conflict, like after the conflict, Alaron is like, okay, we're gonna get the time matrix, but we need to go destroy that ship again with all those fucking Yeerks. We gotta go do that. You know, you have to do it, Elfangor. It's your duty to fucking kill those guys. And he's still fucking not happy about it.
Needs to be about
But then
20%
they're
cooler.
attacked by Lauren and Chapman, who have been infested already and were subtly lying in wait. So they have to fight these humans who got the jump on them. And so they do that, and they restrain them, and they get off the planet, and they're going to go, again, try and go kill those Yeerks, and Elfangor doesn't want to. So he actually knocks out his commanding officer because he doesn't want to fucking do this for, you know, because he's a fucking nice guy.
I hate this guy. I gotta say, Elfangor,
He's
kind of cringe.
He's not the best of choices, and the effects will be bad, as you will soon see.
Yeah. I mean, I can already see. I mean, if there's just more.
We know
it's
how it
even
ends
worse.
for our boy.
Yeah.
Okay, so Alaron's knocked out. They're back where the time matrix is, and Elfangor is going to go recover it and get back on the ship and kind of just leave by himself. Well, not by himself, but like everybody else is kind of either restrained or knocked out or taken care of. He's trying to do that, but then all of a sudden he finds out that Chapman got free, and while Alaron was knocked out, infested Alaron. So Alaron is the abomination, and the Yeerk, Subvector 7, is Espelin 9466, or Visser 3 as we know him from the series. So Elfangor is responsible for creating Visser 3. And this is the beginning of their long-standing rivalry that continues all the way up until the beginning of the first book.
So that's why he's got a body, because it's the captain, Elfangor's captain.
Elfangor's war prince is Alaron, who is now Visser 3.
It needs
in
to
the
be about
current
20%
copy of the
cooler.
series. So he fucked up and paid the price pretty fucking bad. The biggest loss, because now the Andalites know, the Yeerks know all about their technology, all about their fleets, all about their stations, all the fucking like huge, like it's the biggest intelligence victory for the Yeerks.
Is this what turned him into the hard-ass, get-shit-done man who would become a hero?
At this point, he's like, fuck this shit. He definitely gets a lot more badass at this point. Okay, so he escapes. He tricks the Yeerks, because the Yeerks at this point, who are coming to find their ship, know that like the Sub-Visser or Visser 3, at this one, I'll just call him Visser 3 just for the sake of clarity, has informed his troops that I now have an Andalite body, but they don't know which one it is. So he tricks Visser 3 and has the Yeerks attack him, while Elfangor gets in the ship and leaves with the humans. So once they're in Z-space, like trying to escape again, he wants to go back to his fleet because he knows the ship is being tracked, like because they had time to fucking bug it and track it and whatever. So he's like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay a trap. I'm going to bring you back to where my fleet is, so when they jump in, there'll be a huge fucking battle, and we can get the upper hand because I'll let them know that they're on the way. So they're going to jump in and try and get me and the time matrix, but they're going to run into this huge fucking fleet. And so they do. There's a huge fucking battle. And the ship that they're in gets boarded by Visser 3, and they all have a big fight on the ship itself. Yes?
Why doesn't he already use the time matrix, since he has it at this point, to fix all of this shit?
Because they don't know what the ramifications of using the time matrix would be. You're fucking with space-time.
Sure.
And the Illimists are kind of like these mythological kind of creatures at this point.
So there's more than one?
There's one Illimist, but because of this, like, no one's ever met the Illimist before. The fact that the kids meet the fucking Illimist is like meeting God.
Yeah,
right?
okay.
So it's like they have stories of what the Illimist could be. They didn't even know the time matrix was real. And now that they found it, they're like, should we just like, it's like, you know, like opening the Ark of the Covenant. Like, should you do it? I don't know. Bad things could happen. So he's very hesitant to use it because he doesn't know what the ramifications would be. Because like the stories that surround the Illimists is like they could like they're kind of used as like boogeymen, like, you know, the Illimist is it's fucking a god thing, you know, it's a sort of a semi-religious kind of deal. He's hesitant to use it because he doesn't know what the ramifications will be. But during the scuffle, the ship is damaged, and the only way they can get off the ship is to use the time matrix. And so the way it essentially works is that you make physical contact with it and you concentrate on a location or a situation, and it will take you there or generate it if it does not exist. This is how it is explained to work. So Elfangor touches it and wants to go to the Andalite homeworld. But Lauren, the human that's still there, touches it and wants to go to Earth. And then Visser 3 is there and touches it. He wants to go to the Yerk homeworld. So because all these three conflicting informations are there, a pocket dimension is created that is a combination of all these three places that is just based off their memories and not the actual location. So they are all trapped in this fucking pocket dimension amalgamation of all the destinations they wanted to go to. And it's a fucking hellscape.
Okay.
I don't like that.
It's super fucked. So the only thing they can do is at the center of this pocket dimension is the time matrix itself. They can go there and go to an actual location. So they're all on a race to get there. At this point, Lauren and Elfangor, they've been getting along pretty well throughout the entire book. She's taken the whole aliens thing pretty fucking well.
Is she a controller now?
She's not. She, earlier in the book, while they were traveling to the fleet, Elfangor starved the Yerk from Kandrona, and she's fine. So she's back to being herself. So they all clash again at the time matrix, and this time Elfangor is able to defeat Visser 3. He doesn't kill him because he gets away, and Lauren uses the time matrix to take them to Earth. So now they are on Earth, and at this point, Elfangor is sick of the war. He's sick of all this shit. He's gone. His character arc right now has been I can't wait to be in the war. It's gonna be so cool. And now he's my friend is probably dead. I betrayed my entire people and created an abomination. Clearly I'm not cut out for this. This is fucking shit. So he turns himself into a human Nothlit and lives a normal life with Lauren. And they eventually get married. And so he just lives a life for a couple years as a human being on Earth with Lauren.
Okay. In the 80s?
Yeah, around the early 80s.
Okay.
They're just bombing around.
Oh my god, it's
Whatever.
fucking Jake's dad, isn't it?
what a
Elfangor
time to
is
be
Jake's
alive.
fucking father.
Nah, it's too
He's
fucked
gonna
up.
undo this whole time.
Why?
I don't know. Maybe that's true. I
Okay.
have no fucking idea.
So, he lives on Earth with Lauren for a couple years until the Illumis shows up
Okay.
and is you fucked with the time
It's an
matrix.
improvement, darling.
You created inconsistencies in reality that should not exist. You should not be here with Lauren. You should not be here doing these things. You need to be back with your people. You have an incredibly important role to play in this conflict. You need to come back with me. And he's I don't want to. I have a life here. I have a wife. This is good. And he's just no, you have to do it. And so he basically convinces him to do it. But before he leaves, he finds out that he has a son. He was going to have a
It needs to
son
be
with
about
Lauren,
20%
and
cooler.
they were very important to the coming conflict.
Wait, how could this son be important to the coming conflict if they weren't supposed to exist at all? We're just trying to get things back to how they used to be.
It's basically the situation as it exists now.
Okay.
Him continuing to be here is not how reality is supposed to be. Him coming back to this time, that purpose has been served, basically to have this child be born. But now that he's being pulled back and reality is being altered, the son will live, but she will not have memories of being with Elfangor. She
I don't
won't
understand
remember.
how
Who
that is
is-
fucking possible.
Who
at
is
all.
the child?
Okay.
Who is the child?
So he goes back. He just kind of appears in a fighter in the middle of a battle with a bunch of other people.
Okay.
And they're like, Elfangor, what are you doing here? And he just fucking
He's
fuck.
like,
He's
I
like,
know.
he's out of a, but he just becomes a fucking badass. And so for X amount of time, 15, 20 more years, until he meets the kids on Earth, he's just killing Yerks. He's fighting Visser 3. Visser 3 got out of there through his own deal. And so they're just going fucking ham and going at it until the battle above Earth happens and he lands on fucking,
It needs
the
to be
planet
about
and meets the
20%
kids.
cooler.
And we find out right
It's an
here
improvement, darling.
that Tobias is him and Lauren's son.
Oh, what
Yeah.
the fuck,
Yeah.
dude? That's some bullshit.
And so that's where the book ends.
That's great.
Okay, it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah, it's a little
But
bit.
okay.
That's why Tobias doesn't have any fucking parents. And he's all got a fucked up family life. Because his dad is an alien who got
Yeah.
time traveled back
Yeah,
to an
but-
alternate.
But what about when his
branch
mom still
timeline.
exists? How?
Lauren still exists. She's still alive. She just doesn't have any memories of Elfangor.
So how did Tobias, in the world that exists now, come into existence?
I don't,
He just was there.
Yeah,
Somehow.
the
was
ill-
he in an orphanage or?
he's still Lauren's son.
But I thought his parents were gone his whole life, or for much of it, or something.
Yeah. He doesn't know who they are.
But his mom surely is aware. She gave birth to a child.
It's explained. We'll get to it.
Okay.
Some silly shit happens.
All right.
What? So I just want to say, with all that you've explained about this entire book series, how many books is this?
This
Like 9 books.
we just finished
12.
No,
12
I'm saying this whole thing about
Andalite Chronicles.
yeah,
and shit.
That's one book.
That's one like big book.
That's
Oh.
one big 300-page book.
Well, okay, the point still stands. That again, the entire point of the author making this book series is that she likes animals.
Yeah.
Pandas and
Yeah.
squirrels.
Like, wouldn't it be fun to like be a panda?
Yeah,
Wouldn't
wouldn't
it
it
be like
be
sick?
Dude,
fun to
Look.
make
if
a
you could,
rat?
if you were a bird, you could fly, dude.
I don't.
And yet there's this giant sci-fi epic that has nothing to do with anything.
I don't know what to tell you.
Okay.
You're gonna have to DM her or something. Get a fucking
Just
better
a real
explanation.
big like
I
cat
mean,
fan.
Yeah, you know.
See that it's like so much of the aspects of like these aliens are like things that occur in nature, like the
Yeah.
all like very interesting like natural like you know.
The way
Like relationships that form in nature.
They're not like humanoids with like a bit of a horn.
Yeah, yeah.
Or like a weird skin
not
thing.
Star Trek
They're all
shit.
like different
Right.
space animals.
I mean, the way the
Like,
books are
sea
usually structured is that there is a conflict of some sort, and then they find an animal on Earth that will help them do that, and it's an excuse to explain this is how the animal functions, this is how their instincts work. So there's a lot of like supplemental information through the book of like, you know, this is how spiders see, that they can see in an infrared spectrum, so normal visible holograms would no longer work. It's like excuses to exposition dumb about how fucking cool animals
like,
are.
in case you didn't realize from all the gore and the alien sci-fi, this is an edutainment series. Like, in case it wasn't clear.
Look, I don't know what to fucking tell you. I'm just the messenger.
I remember when Rachel first turns into a cat, there's like a lot of talk about, oh yeah, cats don't really see color. Cats kind of more see motion. So like, like Rachel's very, when she sees, oh, cats can jump up like, cats can jump like 10 feet in the air. That's like a human jumping up 4 stories. It's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like,
there's lots of stuff like that.
absolutely thrilled to share this information with you.
Behind it all, JK, she just wanted to hit those thermals.
Yeah.
Same.
All right, so that's the Andalite Chronicles. Gives you a better explanation of Elfangor and his history with fucking Visor 3 and all that shit.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it's pretty fucking cool. It's pretty dope. This is back to the main series, so books 13 through 22. The first thing we find out is about the free Hork-Bajir. So,
It's an improvement, Donnie.
basically Tobias, this is another Tobias book, he's just kind of flying around, doing his thing, riding those thermals, being a badass.
Yeah.
And he notices some Hork-Bajir in the forest, and they're being chased by other Hork-Bajir shooting at them. So he goes to investigate and figure out what's going on. He finds out that there's these 2 Hork-Bajir, what are their names? They have names.
Adam and Eve.
There's Ket Helpak and Jara Hame. These are the
Rolls right off the tongue.
yeah, exactly. These are 2 Hork-Bajir who escaped the Yerk pool. They're now running for their fucking lives. So, through a series of events, they kind of basically help them evade the Yerks, because if they have these are the first two free Hork-Bajir in like fucking decades, you know? All of them are enslaved. Their entire people is destroyed.
It
So,
needs to be about
this is
20%
kind of a big
cooler.
deal. And throughout the whole book, Tobias keeps having like visions of like this weird like refuge to take them to that he's never seen before. And
It
doesn't
needs to be
fucking
about
understand how he knows
20%
that
cooler.
knowledge. And you eventually find out that the Elamist is subtly guiding him, because the Elamist
It needs to be
wants
about
these
20%
Hork-Bajir to be
cooler.
free. This is another important
It
role
needs to be about
that they have to
20%
play.
cooler.
And Tobias is like kind of pissed. He's like, I don't like being used like this, Elamist. I have my own shit going on. Like, yeah, I want to help, but like I like to
It
do
needs
it
to
of
be
my
about
own volition.
20% cooler.
And the Elamist is
It
like,
needs
look,
to be about 20% cooler.
if you help me, I will give you what you desire most. And so it is understood that that is like, I will revert you to your human form
Sure.
if you help me out with this. And so him and the rest of the Animorphs go along with it. They guide them to this valley where it's like, kind of like hidden by like the Elamist ability to fuck with shit. So like it's hard for the Yerks to find. And so in response to this, the
It needs
Elamist
to be about
gives
20%
Tobias
cooler.
his morphing abilities back, but doesn't make him
It's an
human.
I
improvement,
was gonna
Donnie.
ask if so. Everyone else is an anamorph. You get all these abilities, but Tobias he cannot morph. He just is a bird.
He's just been a bird that has telepathy this
So
whole
if he
time.
gets dismembered, for him it's game over.
Yes.
Okay.
He's in deep shit at that
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
So he gets his morphing ability back, because there's a point during this adventure where he nearly dies, and so the Elamist steps in. He's like, "I'll give you your morphing ability back, because so you don't die." So you can
Fucking
complete
Dave's S. Elmist over here.
Can he turn back into his original human form?
Well, that's the thing. At the end of the book, the Elamist actually like sends
It
him
needs to be about
through
20%
time and
cooler.
space back to the night before he goes through the construction site with everybody else. And he
It
gives him
needs to be
a choice.
about
He's like,
20%
you
cooler.
can choose to stay in this timeline and convince yourself back in time not to go to the construction site, and you'll be removed from this timeline and never be a part of the war and continue to be a human. Or you can choose to acquire your human self and morph into human form for 2 hours and stay in the fight.
He could choose to become a
A
Nothlit
Nothlit.
of himself, which would also remove him from the fight, but he'd still have all his memories. And
Right.
Be friends with his boys.
And this is a struggle he continues with throughout the series.
Ah, okay,
Because he
okay.
does choose to acquire himself and be a human
always
for 2
knew
hours
I
at a
was
time.
brilliant.
But the temptation is always there. I could just exit this conflict and become human permanently. And a lot of the people, especially Rachel and him kind of have like a semi-romantic bond throughout the whole book that
And he
continues
wants
to
to
grow.
fuck for at least 4-hour blocks, and it just
Yeah,
doesn't work with
you
their
know,
schedule. Yeah.
you know, there's like tension there because like, you know, Rachel's like, you know, I really like you, but you're a bird.
Yeah.
It's fucking weird. So that's the end of that. They have the small settlement of Hork-Bajir in this valley. Tobias can morph again, and he can be human temporarily, which gives him a bit more options in the books to come.
Yeah.
And, you know, he won't die as easily.
So you can only morph for 2 hours, but how often can they morph?
As often as they want.
Okay.
So like you can just go right back in after you.
You could, yeah.
And you said you can't morph. If I'm human, I morph to a gorilla. Can I morph straight to ant, or do I have to
No,
revert?
you
back?
have to go through your base form
Okay,
first.
Does that mean that
It
Tobias
needs to be about
could
20%
just
cooler.
keep morphing back
You
to
could.
human and
Yeah,
stay
just
human?
every 2 hours he would have to briefly become a bird again and then go
Yeah.
back to being human.
Which isn't such a bad deal.
Yeah, that's all right.
You know, but it kind of still prevents you from any like, cause
You
like
can't sleep.
there's certain things you
Yeah.
can't really fucking do. Like you have to sleep a bird still.
Yeah.
If you want to go see like fucking Avengers Endgame, like you're gonna have to at some point. You know, there's a lot of complications that don't make it as simple as that.
That makes going to the bathroom in the middle of the movie like a whole new kind of
Right?
Like, oh, I gotta go to the.
Man, just fucking booking it. Like I got 15 seconds before I gotta demorph. The struggle is real. You know
I
what
just
I
want
mean?
to know if Tony Stark makes it out of this one. Okay.
Right.
Spoilers. He does not. Oh,
Guys, we have a ton of people watching right now.
Sorry, guys.
All right. So the next kind of big thing that happens is the Lyran conflict, and so Lyra is another planet that the Yeerks are trying to invade. And the bad thing about the Lyrans is that they're all like actual telepaths. It's not just like the Andalites where they can like speak telepathically. They can like see into your mind and see your thoughts and shit.
So the Yeerks have tough times with those guys.
They have a very tough time with them, but if they win,
Oh,
they
yeah.
now have a whole army of telepaths.
True.
So this is like a big target for the Yeerks because a telepath would let them see through the Andalites' morphing abilities.
Right.
And that'd be a big fucking deal. And the Animorphs are worried about it because then they realize they're human, and that would ruin their strategic advantage. So they go to fuck up this plan because the Lyrans are an underwater species. So they apparently, Visser 1, who's in charge of the Lyran invasion, who's back on Earth, is like, we are going to take sharks, we're going to modify their brains so they're big enough and smart enough to be hosts, and then send them to Lyra to fucking murder these motherfuckers.
Can Yeerks not take over like really stupid?
It's not that
things?
they're just certain. There are certain species like that just like, you know, like just like the space in their brains or whatever. Like if they can't like physically properly like host the Yeerk,
Okay.
that the sharks would be considered at this point a class 1 species, unfit for infestation because it's just not biologically compatible. So they're going to genetically modify them, make their brains more
Make them
suitable.
Class 2.
Well, that'd be a class. I guess it'd technically be a class 5. But
Sharks with the brains.
sharks with brains, dude.
Yeah. Okay.
Improvement, Donnie.
So, and that's
What's not to love?
yeah.
Class 5.
You know?
Get better than that.
During this conflict, they all morph into hammerhead sharks to stealth into this, and they actually get captured by the Yeerks and get fucking implants put into their shark brains that are designed to like slowly like fuck them over, and they have to like struggle to get them out of their brains because they can't demorph because like there's this big fucking implant in their brain that's gonna fuck them over if they turn back. So there's a whole big thing to get rid of that.
It needs to be about 20%
Cool.
cooler.
Get it out.
They
It needs to be
eventually.
about 20%
How
cooler.
do they do it? I don't think I even have it
Just,
down in my
like,
notes.
Shake really vigorously.
Yeah, you know,
So it comes out their shark ear hole.
Just read the books.
Yeah, read the books.
Okay, yeah.
Read the books. This is, I don't remember which number this is. It's between 13 and 22. It's Marco turning into a hammerhead shark. That's the cover in glorious Photoshop
I remember
1997.
that one.
Yeah. So this is like the first part of the Lyran conflict. Is they eventually like shut down this operation, prevent sharks from being used. It doesn't pan out for Visser 1, and sad times all around. It eventually comes back a couple books later where the zero space thing happens. So when they're all in morph, they get caught in the wake of a ship passing by the space where all their matter's being stored. And because they're caught in the wake somehow, it like instead of killing them instantly, it like teleports them into the ship, and now they're on an Andalite battleship on its way to Lyra to fight this big fucking war.
Wait, they were already on Lyra?
No, they're on the ship that's on its way to Lyra.
When they were morphed, they were on Earth.
They were on Earth.
Fighting against Visser. Did they even like have anything to do with the Lyra at that point?
All they knew about the Lyran conflict at that point was that they were making some sharks to go to this weird planet.
And they were interfering with the Year's plan to make sharks
Correct.
to use in the Lyran conflict.
And during this, they get teleported through Z-space shenanigans.
Pure coincidence.
Pure coincidence.
I mean, this is what the galactic conflict is centered around at the moment.
Right.
So it's not a coincidence that an Andalite ship would happen to be on
Right.
its way to Lyra.
But the coincidence is that there's this whole huge, vast emptiness of like anti-space, and they just happen to be in the way at the exact right space. So instead of dying instantly, they're caught in the wake of the ship going through zero space and are teleported onto the ship itself.
Yeah, not even like weirdly like half into the wall where they would like die instantly.
Right.
Really, like,
It's just
perfectly
like the
standing.
odds are. It's like the Illuminati had to have been involved in somehow. It's not. It's never said that it is, but like, come on. There's no way.
Frogs. What if you turn into a frog?
Aren't the Lyrans like big frogs, basically?
They're basically big frog people with tentacles and stuff.
Tentacles,
Yeah.
psychic frogs.
Yeah.
Dude,
So
frogs are like natural animals.
Dude, frogs are,
'cause
like,
they're like a tadpole and then they become like a frog.
yeah. Cool. Cool.
That's where I got the idea. I am
Yeah.
the Ellimist.
Dope.
I am K.A. Applegate.
I am K.A.
Nate,
Yes.
shut the fuck
I'm
up.
sorry, I'm sorry.
It's like 4 in the morning.
That's Mrs. Applegate to you, sir.
Go fuck yourself. So they're on this fucking ship, and this is a book from Axe's perspective. He's once again kind of examining like his allegiances between the animal, because like again, well, his big goal this whole time still, despite being closer to the Animorphs, is like I want to get back to my people. I want to get back in the fight, and here's an opportunity to do so. So he kind of like stops being with the Animorphs as much and kind of defers like his allegiance back to the commanding officer on this ship, and it's just like takes one of them as his prince now. He's like, Jake, you're not my prince anymore. I'm sorry. I gotta be with my people. Blah 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 blah. And they eventually find out that the captain of the ship is a traitor and is willingly helping the Yeerks because he's an asshole. So they stop this ship from being controlled by this guy, and they escape while the TO, like the second in command of the
needs to
ship,
be about
who's
20%
dying,
cooler.
and like the ship's already like pretty fucked up because it got destroyed during the fight that they were doing, rams the ship into a Yeerk ship when they come out of orbit because they're supposed to meet up with some Yeerk ships because it's like a trap. They double cross them, blow up the ship, they escape, but now they're trapped on Lyra, a planet like a bajillion fucking miles from Earth, and they have no idea how to get back. So in the meantime, they're just like, well, I guess we're just gonna help the Andalites fight on Lyra. And so the fucking Andalites are just like, who the fuck are these people and why should we trust you? But Axe kind of vouches for them and like, well, I guess we need all the help we can get, you know? And like this is like a fucking weird left turn that the Yeerks wouldn't expect, like some backwater monkeys from somewhere just coming and helping out. So they have this plan where like we need to detonate this bomb that will destroy the entire continent where the Yeerks are set up, and we can just fucking end this conflict really quick. And as this battle continues, the members of the Animorphs like slowly start disappearing one at a time.
I'm sorry, but about that detonating an entire continent on this planet, surely there's got to be some moral ambiguity in the narrative about. Okay.
As the series
Yes.
as the series continues, we start to realize that the Andalites,
It's an improvement, Donnie.
they're willing to bend the rules here and there for the
Yeah.
greater good.
Yeah.
And this is another one of those examples.
Technology, but they will like destroy.
It
your
needs to
entire
be
Right.
about 20%
It's like,
cooler.
you know, it's maybe they're not like the Boy Scout good guys after all. They're kind of a little like they'll do what they got to do. So they reluctantly go on to this. They don't have anything else they can do. But as they're doing this, they're one by one like popping out of existence. And it's explained that like this is like totally theoretical because it's never happened before. It's like never popping through zero space like they did is like technically it's possible that this could happen, but what the fuck's never gonna happen, and it does here. And so they're theorizing that like they're kind of popping back to their original location for whatever fucking reason. It's like zero space bullshit that I couldn't possibly explain. And so they end up detonating the bomb as they all kind of slowly pop back and they end up back on Earth. And assumedly the conflict is done and won in victory in favor of Yeah.
Do we ever get an update on that later on?
Yeah, it comes back later.
Okay.
But yeah, it is eventually revealed that like they did good.
Okay.
There was some damage done, some things that happened, but yeah, the Yeerks did not get an army of telepaths, which is good. Okay. Next up is David.
Who's David?
David.
I love going from Hork-Bajir to the Lyran conflict to simply David.
Would you believe that David's like the worst one of all of them?
No.
So David is this kid that goes to school with them.
I hate it already.
Yeah, school, terrible. So they notice, like, this is a book from Marco's perspective. Marco notices that David is showing off this fucking cool cube thing he found at an abandoned construction site.
No.
David has the essence
These
field
guys
device.
just like left the fucking cube there?
Well, no, they assumed that the cube was destroyed because Elfangor had. They assumed that when he was eaten, the cube, but it clearly wasn't. It was still just hanging out at the construction site.
That means the fucking Yeerks are incredibly incompetent. Fucking left that shit
They
there.
could have helped to buy.
As far as I know, the Yeerks don't know how morphing technology works. They just know that it exists.
Okay.
Because again, Ciro's kindness, and again, the morphing technology is relatively new. It was invented after the conflict started. So
Because they only got Visser 3, but they got it before they invented morphing technology. Wait, but
No,
Visser 3
Visser 3 was like newly acquired the morphing technology and then was captured by the Visser.
So wouldn't he know?
I mean,
about what that is?
Visser 3 would probably know, but Visser 3 was like in a fucking beast morph, and like I would assume the general shock troops probably don't have knowledge of the intricacies of morphing.
Visser 3 would know how the technology works.
What
but he
really
wouldn't
happened is
necessarily
this is made up after the fact
He
of the
wouldn't
first book.
necessarily
Okay?
know that the cube was there.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's not something he would look out for. He wouldn't expect Andalites with the mind of Alaron thinking like he's gonna take out the morphing cube and give it to a bunch of fucking kids, you know?
Oh, that makes sense.
So there's some wiggle room there, but obviously this was a plot that was come up with later. It's fine. We can wave it away. So this kid David has the cube, and Marco's like, "Fuck, dude, that's bad," you know. So he first tries to buy it off David, and David's like, "Fuck you, it's cool, I want it." So then they try and break into David's house and steal it as like animals. But David's like a fucking psychopath, takes a baseball bat and tries to just murder them. So that doesn't fucking work either.
Stand your ground laws, man.
Sure. So at this point, David's like decides that this thing must be worth money and lists it on the internet to try and sell it.
Oh, good.
Because he's stupid. And so the Yeerks in Visser 3 finds out that the fucking morphing cube is just bombing around.
Oh my god.
So they attack David's house, they infest his parents, and they try and infest him. And the Animorphs in the Visser 3 have this huge fucking battle in the middle of suburbia in this kid's house. The house gets fucking destroyed.
That's awesome.
And they have this kid is now like has no house, he has no family, his family's been infested. They escape with the morphing cube and David in tow, but his whole family life is ruined. So now they're left with a choice. Do we A,
All mine.
Kill him.
leave him to his own devices, kill him, or do we make him one of us and tell him about what's going on? And they have a vote on it, and narrowly they decide to reveal what's going on to David and make him another member because their team gets stronger if they have another person.
No, but David with a name like that, you can't fucking trust a guy.
You know what? They're like 14 years old at this point. They don't have the worldly knowledge we do.
Same mistake that
Ciro's kindness, man.
You know?
Animorph's kindness.
What are you gonna do? So they give the morphing power to David, and it quickly becomes clear that David has no interest in doing anything other than like using morphing for his own personal benefit.
Even though his parents have been infested.
He doesn't give a shit.
He doesn't give a shit.
No.
David's a popcorn nihilist.
Yeah. All right.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Like the first thing he does with his morphing powers is turn into a bird, break into an expensive hotel, and just chill up there without having to pay for it. Like this is just what he decides to do. So he butts
Fuck
heads
the
with
bourgeoisie.
he butts heads with Jake a lot, and he doesn't really respect like the chain of command that is kind of naturally evolved. And so he almost like they take him on a mission, which is a fucking terrible idea. But what are they gonna do? Leave him to his own devices? So they kind of just have to babysit him through this mission. And the problem is the mission that's going on right now is that like a huge like meeting of world leaders is happening in like outside the city, and Visser 3's planning on. Yeah, like the UN. And the Visser 3 is like, what if we just infest everybody at this meeting?
Seems like a good plan.
So they're like, oh god, we have to deal with this like moron, and this is happening at the same time. Horrible timing. So they go and try and fucking take care of that, and they get like captured. And David nearly spills the beans to like these guys are humans. Like don't fucking kill me. I'll do whatever you want. Like 'cause he's a fucking dumb pussy bitch. So they barely make it out of there, and they're like, okay, David, you gotta fucking shape up, you idiot. And so before they leave, because Visser 3 figures out from David starting to talk, you're the human. He still thinks the rest are Andalite bandits, but he's like, they must have given him the morphing power to not kill him. Because he figures out that he's talking like a human, not like, you know, a trained Andalite prince or warrior or whatnot. So he says to David, like, I'll free your parents if you come meet me tonight at your parents' destroyed place and, you know, fucking tell me what I need to know, release them. Everything will be great. You can trust me. Wink.
It needs to be about
So
20%
David, being a
cooler.
fucking retard, goes to do it anyways. And so they're all like monitoring him all night to make sure he doesn't actually try and escape, but he does. So he goes after them, and they all basically try and it's like, okay, we're gonna have to fucking do something to stop David from making this huge fucking mistake. And so Marco comes into his room where he's like waiting, and there's like a dead red-tailed hawk in there. He's like, yeah, I killed Tobias. He was chasing me. Fuck you guys. I have no interest in this fight. I'm killing all of you and using my morphing powers to get rich. I hate all of you.
Did he actually kill Tobias?
Base.
We'll get there. So him,
I don't like that.
yeah, it's pretty great. So him,
David's kind of big. So,
Yeah, honestly.
Like, I really relate to this character.
I'm sure you
For
do.
them.
So
For me.
there's a big fucking chase.
Equestria.
Like David is like fucking holding his own surprisingly, and then he ends up fighting Jake on top of the mall because they fight first in bird form and then they demorph on the roof of the mall. David turns into a tiger, or no, David turns into a lion. Jake turns into his tiger, and they fucking go at it.
A lion would kick a tiger's ass.
That's the
It
whole
needs
thing.
to be
Jake's
about
at a
20%
disadvantage here.
cooler.
So what happens is they're fighting. They like crash through the glass ceiling of the fucking mall.
Thus electing Hillary.
Yeah. What?
Demerit.
No,
Destroyed the glass ceiling.
Fucking demerit.
Oh,
Fucking
yeah.
demerit.
Yeah.
So bad. You're not allowed to speak for the rest of this fucking presentation. I hate you so fucking much. Anyway, he fucking rips Jake's like artery open, and he's like bleeding out and dying in the middle of the fucking mall. And David just takes off. So they have to like scramble to save.
Exploded every book now.
Dude, there's violence in every one of these fucking books. So Jake is fucking dying. He's like gonna die really soon, and even he's like unconscious, bleeding out. So at worst, he bleeds out and dies. At slightly less worse, he is stabilized, but he's trapped as a tiger forever.
Right.
So bad times all around. So they kind of like get Cassie to call her parents and let them know that there's a because they're veterinarians and stuff, and she's like, there's a fucking tiger at the mall. Can we go save him? So they kind of like get him out and get him stabilized and shit like that. But now they're just like, shit, guys. David is like AWOL. This is bad. Like, this is bad. We called this the wrong way. God, there's a lot I can go through here. This is like the first part in the books are like a 3-book part series of like going through this whole fucking
The David saga.
the David saga. Yeah. All
Let's
right.
get to the fucking chase. How do they kill David? I want to know.
Okay. So through a series of events, they basically play to David's like ego, and they pretend that like, yeah, David, you're better than us. We'll give you the morphing cube because they get the morphing cube back from
Be
David.
fair and square.
So
Yeah.
fucking schoolyard.
I mean, he's a 13-year-old kid with no sense of fucking
I
intelligence.
guess so.
If you're gonna fucking beat him, that's the way to do it. So what they
He's
basically,
covered in zits on my mind.
oh, absolutely, he's just disgusting. So
Morph him into
the way they end up dealing with David is they don't kill him. what they do is they basically, like, he has this like fucking big problem with Rachel because Rachel like threatened him because, like, again, she's like a fucking like Amazonian psychopath. So when like he starts crossing with them, he's like, look, if you betray us, like, we'll still have time to kill your parents before they get us. Like threatening like that and like fucking pissing him off. So they use Rachel to like bait him into going to this remote island off the coast of where they live to give him the morphing cube. They said, that's where we hid it. We'll give it to you. Please just leave us alone so we can fucking do our shit. Go do whatever you want to do. You know, and whatever reason he believes them, he's like taunting Rachel the whole time. And it's this big fucking ruse. And they basically trap him in rat morph and make him a rat knotlith and leave him on this island in the middle of fucking nowhere.
That's crazy.
And like the last part of this book is just like they're just flying away and hearing him screaming in thought speak. You fucking, how could you do that? Crying and sobbing.
It's like a trash barge, right? They leave him
Yeah.
on like this trash.
It's fucking like trash barge island thing.
Rats, and he's just one of the
He's
rats.
one of the
crawling
rats
around
on
this
this-
trash
That's
island.
terrible and
Yeah.
sad and scary.
And epic and big.
Yeah, fuck yeah, mega.
So,
What happened to our hero David?
well, you know, that's what happens when you fly too close to the sun, man.
It needs to be
All
about
right,
20% cooler.
That's the Cliff Notes saga of David.
Terrible. That was the worst thing that's ever happened to me or anyone else, let alone David himself.
At least Tobias could fly when he was second.
Wait, I thought so David didn't kill Tobias.
He doesn't end up killing Tobias. He thought he killed Tobias, but he just happened to just like kill a random red-tailed hawk that was
Where
near
the
him.
fuck was Tobias while this was going on?
Well,
They didn't
Tobias-
even know any of this was happening.
Tobias is the key to them making this trap work because he traps all the animorphs, like he locks them in this
It
bottle.
needs to be
Like,
about
you all need to
20%
morph into
cooler.
cockroaches except for Rachel. I'll lock you in this bottle so you can't interfere. But he still assumes that Tobias is dead, but he's still alive. So Tobias releases them and they spring the trap on him.
Okay.
Read the books if you want to know exactly how it happened. Yeah, cool.
Okay, is the tone of this supposed to be like, fuck you, David, you
No,
fucked us up?
the tone of this is like,
The tone of this is I can't believe we had to do
yeah,
this.
the tone of this is like
thing.
everyone is haunted by. They're like books where like they have nightmares about this situation for like books and books after this, and like this haunts them forever.
Okay.
It's super fucked up.
Understood to be terrible.
Yeah, no, this is like one of the first big lines they have to cross, and there's a huge fucking just like ethical debate for a while on how they're gonna take care of this.
Very curious if David pops back up in the narrative, but perhaps we'll see as we go.
It needs to be about 20% cooler.
Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about quickly, because I don't want to waste too much time, is the Hork-Bajir Chronicles. This is another book like the Andalite Chronicles. This one takes place even before the Andalite Chronicles. This is the story of how the Hork-Bajir homeworld fell to the Yeerks. There's really not a whole bunch to go through here. I mean, there could be, but I'll just keep it brief for the sake of,
We don't know much about
Time.
Bajir yet.
Yeah, so the Hork-Bajir, this is where we learn a lot about them. So the book follows two characters. There's a Hork-Bajir named Dak Hame, who is the grandfather of Jara Hame, the free Hork-Bajir that we met up there. And then the other character is Aldrea. She is a female Andalite and the daughter of Ciro, the guy who gave the Yeerks morphing power.
Oh, yeah.
So this book takes place like very, very, very soon after the Yeerks become a threat. And so they're kind of like sent on another like bullshit, get out of our way, you fucked up society mission. Go look at this Hork-Bajir race. They're like this backward race of like, dumb, stupid aliens, and like maybe the Yeerks might want them, who knows, but like just get out of the way so we can fucking focus on
Yep,
cleaning up this problem you
everything's fine.
caused. So much like everybody else that we've met from Andalites, Aldrea longs to be part of this conflict. She wants to clear her father's name. She wants to prove that she's like not worth paying attention to. The difference is there are like gender roles in Andalite society. She's supposed to be a scientist, even though she wants to be a warrior. So they're trying to tell her basically to get fucked.
Fucking STEM majors.
2020 Andalites.
So-
Get with it.
They're basically essentially banished to this planet just to do like studying like the flora and fauna and whatnot. It's not seen as like a big fucking problem because the Hork-Bajir themselves are a very simple, unintelligent race. And despite the fact that they're covered in blades and shit, like they're herbivores. They use the blades for climbing and for like harvesting bark off of trees, and that's what they eat. They eat bark.
They
They're
look
very
like B-Shark, the Pokemon, right?
They're like giant. Oh God.
They're like big fucking like lizard monsters.
Yeah.
With like their like heads and like hands and tails are like covered.
Everything's
in, like,
covered in like
blades,
spikes and blades and stuff. They're like fucking crazy
They're
dinosaur
just
people.
like bark eating like.
I'll edit in photos. You'll know what it looks like at home. You won't have to ask this question. So, but they're like a very peaceful species, and they're not very intelligent. They're like kind of dumb. But Aldrea makes friends with Dak, and Dak is what his people call a seer. A seer is like a rare exception that has like significantly more intelligence, and so they can kind of like talk on an equal ground. And she starts like, she's fucking bored and lonely on this fucking planet full of nobody but her brother and her parents. So she kind of just starts talking with Dak, and they swap stories about like how their culture works and stuff like that.
I always knew I was brilliant.
Everything's great until the fucking Yeerks show up and kill her whole family.
Ah, shit.
So Zero dies, her brother dies, her mom dies. So it's just her and Dak now, and they're just like, oh fuck, these Yeerks are fucking wrecking train. Like the Hork-Bajir are literal tree huggers. They're getting fucking stomped. They've never fought before in their lives. So the Hork-Bajir, again, they're simple, so they have like a lot of like myths and shit, and they believe there's two deities on the planet, Mother Sky and Father Deep. So Mother Sky is just like the sky.
It
The
needs
sky
to
is
be
like a
about
deity,
20%
provides
cooler.
like water and like life and stuff like that. And Father Deep
It needs
is
to be
like where
about
the earth
20%
comes from.
cooler.
And Father Deep
It
itself
needs to
is
be
like
about
this big,
20%
massive
cooler.
fucking canyon on the planet, and this is like another deity to them. And they fear Father Deep because monsters lie in there, and so you can't go in Father Deep or you'll fucking die. But in this conflict, it gets so bad, they really don't have anywhere else to go except Father Deep to escape the fucking onslaught of these Yeerks, like killing and infesting like all their people. So Dak and Aldrea go into Father Deep. Yes.
Well, I just want to say, so this is very early into the conflict between the Yeerks and the
Yeah, this is like a couple years at
Not
most.
the Animorphs. This is early into the conflict of the Yeerks.
Yeah, the Andalites. The Andalites.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're
So at what are the Yeerks controlling? Like at this point.
the Yeerks are they're not even mostly the Yeerks don't, all they have really right now are Ged controllers for the most part, and they're basically just attacking with stolen Andalite technology. They haven't even developed like their own ships. They're a very small band of Yeerks at this point. There's not a lot going on.
One Andalite came down and they
Right.
got the technology from him for like space travel, I assume.
Yeah, he shared
needs
like
to be
all their
about
technology of
20%
how to
cooler.
he's the one who created the Kandrona rays so they could leave the world and stuff like that. Everything about
Wow,
your
he really gave them a fucking hand or two.
yeah, he's pretty dumb.
Cool. Did it with the best of intentions.
Exactly. That's why you never be nice to anybody. So they go into Father Deep, and they see all these monsters, and they find out there's an advanced race of aliens living in Father Deep called the Arn. And the Arn are the original inhabitants of the Hork-Bajir homeworld. And they like live underground, but the surface of the planet still needed to be like taken care of because the ecosystem's very fragile. So they created the Hork-Bajir to like take care of the environment and stuff up there, like harvesting the trees and shit like that, and purposely made them retarded so they wouldn't ask questions and go looking for them. Yeah, they're kind of dicks. So they eventually convinced the Arn to like give them control of all the monsters they created to fight back against the invading Yeerks and teach the Hork-Bajir how to fight. And this basically they're again exposed to the horrors of war and how bad everything is. There's a huge fucking bloodbath. And Aldrea contacts the Andalite home planet using ARM technology. She's like, you gotta come here and help. And you're like, well, you're a woman and Ciro's daughter. We don't fucking care. Fuck you. And so they don't come and help. And so for 7 months, they fight by themselves, just like these fucking tree huggers and like these weird genetic abominations. And they're getting fucking steamrolled. And during this time, the Yeerks are like mining the planet, getting resources and developing the Draken beams and their ships and all this stuff. So all the all the Yeerk technology is developed by the Andalites just basically ignoring this huge fucking problem because they're sexist, basically. So
Andalites suck. Like they're shit.
they're not all great. What can I say? So eventually, they realize that shit is bad on the Hork-Bajir homeworld and maybe they should do something about it. So the guy who comes to lead a strike force against the Yeerks is War Prince Alaron, Elfangor's commanding officer from the Andalite Chronicles. So they land and they get fucking steamrolled. They were not expecting the level of resistance because they're infesting so many of the Hork-Bajir now. They have like really good shock troopers, and there's just like so many of them more now compared to what they were expecting. So in order to win this conflict, Alaron develops what's called a quantum virus, which is basically designed to murder all of the fucking Hork-Bajir with a virus.
I guess where they was man-named.
How is it quantum though? What does that mean?
I don't know why it's called a quantum virus, but it is.
It's just funny because I just tweeted a joke about a quantum virus like yesterday. Unrelated.
There you go.
Okay. How is it not just a normal virus?
I mean,
It
it
needs
just
to be
sounds
about
cooler
20%.
when you put quantum in front of it.
How is the coronavirus a corona? It's just a virus.
That's just a name for the virus.
Yeah.
So you can't just call something quantum. Quantum
And
means
just
something.
like the coronavirus, we don't have to worry about the quantivirus because it's not gonna affect
Wait,
us. Because we dealt with it
It's not
last
quantum,
year.
It's quantum. It is a quantum virus. That's
Oh.
why we're asking about it.
Yeah.
It's just a
It just
cute
means
nickname.
that half of you exist and half of you doesn't.
It's just
If you
fucking
get-
cool. It just
Like
sounds.
the virus exists in a state
If
of
the Andalites just
superstition.
create a virus, that's like I could create a virus in my
Alright.
spare time. But a quantum
It
virus.
is kind of a stupid name.
Okay. We can all agree on
Well,
that.
the Andalites suck at everything.
Yeah,
They
that's
just
true.
suck at naming things too.
I
so
mean,
sorry. So they made a virus to kill the Hork-Bajir.
the Hork-Bajir, yes.
Okay.
To basically wipe out the entire species so that the Yeerks don't have shock
They're making
troopers.
it their own
Okay. So they're
Yeah.
they're doing
They're,
fucking
they're,
genocide
they're,
now.
they're going full Solarian here.
Against
Okay,
innocent
but they
species.
never do that to the humans.
Right.
though.
Yeah.
So, Aldrea at this point, she's like has like a good relationship with Dak and all these other people because she's been fighting for them over the better part of a year. So she revolts against her own people to stop this virus from being deployed, but fails, and it is deployed, and all of the fucking remaining like Hork-Bajir, with the exception of some that escaped the planet,
It's an
are
improvement,
gone.
darling.
So at this point, she's trapped on this planet because like there's nobody there anymore. So she becomes a Hork-Bajir Nothlit and stays with Dak, and they just hide in Father Deep
Wow.
forever.
Badass.
And that's how that book ends.
Damn.
And Alaron is disgraced because, like, even by Andalite standards, like that's not culturally okay, guys.
Is this why he was the disgrace?
This is why he's disgraced because, like, the Andalites believe that the fact that they made a virus is propaganda from the Yeerks,
What?
even though
Wait, but they actually disgraced that guy because he did in fact do that.
they disgraced him, but people don't know why. Like during the Andalite
Okay.
Chronicles, they don't understand why Alaron
The
is.
High Command knows that.
They
that
know,
happened.
So-
Okay.
But they deny it publicly and
Okay.
say that it's Yeerk propaganda
By
to
the way,
discredit them.
Quick question: is there a leader of the Andalites? Is there a president, a king?
The Andalites have an electorate that
Okay.
governs them,
All right.
so that's all that's said. They never go into more detail than that.
Okay.
Okay.
These guys are.
They're fucked.
Bad.
They're not good.
I just to
Dude,
put
the
it,
Andalites are like late capitalism embodied.
This last development
Yeah,
has truly removed any chance of
Yeah.
redeeming them
the-
as like a
chemical
sympathetic.
warfare. Okay, to put it simply in a phrase, I don't like that.
I mean, I don't disagree with you, dude.
By the way, Tom, I don't know if you're aware of it. I just want you to know that this is the image that I most associate with Animorphs. It's this image of a man from Super Smash Bros. Melee player morphing into the B button. And he just uses the B button.
What is the subtitle?
It says, P.S. Leffen, I ain't done yet. It's a Super Smash Brothers player.
Got it.
Okay.
It needs to be about 20% cooler.
Okay. We're closing in on the
Redeem
end.
this.
Here we
Maybe
go.
the war crime is
I'm
not
trying.
that bad.
I still, there's-
Not that bad. Not that bad. Not that bad.
It's, I wish I had better news. I wish I had better news for you. Okay, so I'm kind of just gonna go bullet point through this pretty quickly. If you want to know more, read the fucking book.
Oh, I just need to know, quick temperature check. Are the war crimes going up or are they going down from here on out?
Everything's going up.
Okay.
Everything's going up.
It's going ripple X.
To the moon. To the moon. To the moon.
To the moon!
All right. I don't think we ever actually do go to the moon, which is
crimes,
sad.
war crimes.
War crimes, war crimes.
Exactly.
That's that.
All right.
Andalite motto.
So, we'll pick back up in the
It
main
needs to be
series
about
proper
20%
with the
cooler.
introduction of Krayak. So Krayak is like the opposite of the Elamist. The Elamist and the Krayak are like eternal enemies. They've been fighting for fucking ever. The Elamist wants to like subtly guide species and help them grow and flourish. the Krayak just wants to destroy stuff because he's grumpy, I guess. He just likes wiping shit out.
The Krayak is like, isn't he just like a big blob with an eye on it?
Yeah, he's inspired by the Eye of Sauron.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to imagine what the Krayak, I mean, both the Elamist and the Krayak don't have like true physical forms. They're kind of like omnipotent and are everywhere, anywhere and everywhere at once. Yeah.
So while the Elamist is kind of helping the Animorphs and stuff to do various things, is the Krayak sound either helping the Yeerks or is he like attacking the Animorphs with subtle fucky shit?
So the way this works is that the conflict is explained by the Elamist in this book. Is that the Krayak and the Elamist have been enemies forever, pretty much. And back in the day, they used to fight directly, but that ended up destroying like vast portions of the entire galaxy because there's like two gods going at it. So they both came to the decision that they can't fight directly because that would kind of fuck up both of their goals. So instead, they play a series of games, a series of proxy battles. So everything the Elamist has been doing this whole time isn't really to help out the goodness of heart. He's just trying to fuck over the Krayak. He's making subtle little movements to win this game that they're playing.
I'm sorry. So if the Krayak doesn't want like the galaxy wiped out, then he isn't just an agent of like pure like death and destruction.
No, it's like enslavement and like control and like he's
sort of lawful evil plan, perhaps.
Yeah, he's a weird guy.
Okay.
It goes over a lot more of it in the Elamist Chronicles, but I didn't include it here just because like there's a lot to do.
It's not really relevant at all.
It's just really it's like the most mind bender book of all of them.
I read that one.
That one's really fucking cool. Like the Elamist unironically started life as a gamer. That's not a lie.
He also started life as a bird on a population that have fucking talons that clamp down onto things, and the whole population of bird people flap their wings to keep their
They do.
floating
This is
continents
true.
afloat.
Yeah.
It's like fucked up.
Yeah. No, I think you're making this shit up.
How would a society like that ever come into being? It wouldn't. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Don't worry about
The
it.
Elamist Chronicles is like the most like drug-fueled book out of all of this
I
series.
agree.
Shit gets really fucked. Like the Elamist gets his powers by being absorbed by like some weird like planet-like entity that kind of like it absorbs the memories of everything it's ever captured, but he somehow like fuses with it and
Like,
becomes
takes over or
omnipotent.
something,
It's
yeah.
fucking crazy
Koala
shit.
bears sure are cute. Wouldn't you like to be one for an afternoon?
Get 12 fascinating issues of Animorphs for the low price of $19.95. Get the Tiger poster absolutely free.
Dude, platypus? It's like a fur, but it lays eggs?
What? Cool. Let's talk
Yeah.
about it.
Anyway, war crimes in this god planet.
Yeah, you know. So,
War crimes.
War crimes, war crimes, war crimes.
yeah.
Cry.
Yeah. So, the Animorphs are dragged into a conflict that's being played out between the Elamist and Krayak. So, there's a species on like the other side of the fucking galaxy called the Iskarut. And this is a very valuable species. The Elamist wants to
It needs
save
to be
them.
about 20%
The Krayak
cooler.
wants them wiped out. And it's not exactly explained why in the
It
beginning.
needs to be about 20% cooler.
But the Elamist kind of explains like this is the Krayak, this is what he does, he's fucking bad. Our game we're playing right now is that we're going to both pick a team of 7 people to fight. And whoever wins gets to decide what happens to this species, the Iskarut. So he transports them to the planet of the Iskarut homeworld. Yes?
What's so good about the Iskarut?
We will get to it in a second. They
But
find
also,
out.
there's only 5 or 6 Animorphs.
Yeah, so they take the Animorphs, Axe, and then Eric the Chi.
Oh.
He's like their only other ally.
Oh.
Okay.
So that's their 7. And then the Krayak chooses 7 Howlers. Now the Howlers, as you might recall, are the species that killed the Pemelites, which created the Chi. Eric never comments on this, which is weird,
It's strange.
but you would think he would. But there's really nothing that's brought up about that. Probably. Who the fuck knows? There's a lot. Another interesting to mention is that like the last like 30 or so books, except for the last ones, were all ghost written by other authors because she was working on 2 series at the same time.
Miss,
So- what was the other
Miss
series?
World or
Everworld.
Everworld.
Was the other series.
So she had no creative input.
No. She had like
Her-
detailed outlines for all the books.
Okay.
But
Like-
the actual writing was done by a sequence of ghostwriters.
Wasn't like her husband one of the ghostwriters?
Her husband helped with the entire series, like
Okay.
conceptually and stuff like that. I don't
All
know.
the good stuff. Am I right, man? That's what I'm fucking.
That's
talking
probably what
about.
happened.
Yeah.
She was like animals, and he was like Star Trek.
What about work and like crazy dome ships and like sci-fi subspace though? And she's like,
And like,
oh.
what if there was a voice inside your head that was screaming while it died?
We really don't know what the division of labor was like on this series, but
K.A. Applegate, I caught a great thermal. I felt so
Yeah,
free.
those
Her
thermals.
husband. And then my fucking talons exploded in my bones.
one would think. But who knows? She seems to be a nerd herself. So
Okay.
I will not put any words in her mouth, but I would assume
It's just a theory.
I've never met a smart woman, but the possibility exists.
it's true.
Okay.
You never know.
It's like getting caught in the wake of Z space.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
it's possible.
unthinkable, but theoretically, I guess
It's about as rare. It's about as rare. Okay, so they go to this fucking planet, and the Esroot are these really fucking weird, obnoxious, like bizarre-looking aliens, and they are like
I love them.
peak capitalism.
Yes.
Everything
I
in
knew
their
it.
society has a price tag. Everything is for sale.
Yeah,
they're,
Ferengis.
they're super fucking. They're basically like Ferengis. They're super fucking obnoxious, and the Animorphs are confused. Like, why the fuck are these things worth even like anyone's time? Like, sure, like there's like basic ethical considerations, but like, why would we be involved in like a conflict between two gods over these guys?
Yeah.
They're fucking goofy. So it's very. Their whole society seems very backwards.
Wipe
and
them
makes
out,
sense.
Elliot. They're too goofy.
Yeah, there's just, there's only so much you can take. So they encounter the Howlers, which are these like really fucking, like, they're basically a species that was created by Krayak himself to be his shock troopers to carry out his fucking dirty work.
So are they physically
Aren't they like
intimidating?
magma men?
They're drawn as like oddly photoshopped
Yeah.
as like magma sort of looking people.
That doesn't
It's not
make sense.
really explained
Okay.
what exactly they are. They're just like bad dudes. Even one of them.
Or like corn pop.
Yeah. The worst thing.
Yeah, I like imagine it, yeah.
So even one of these howlers can like take all of them on at once.
Wait,
Okay.
what are the peak capitalists there?
The Iskarut.
Joe Biden is an Israel.
Yeah. Fair.
Peak capitalism.
Shut the fuck up, everybody.
Okay.
So they're kind of just like shit guys. How are we gonna beat these guys? They're way fucking strong. They eventually do kill one by themselves, and the way they kill it is that Jake demorphs and acquires it. And one of the things you have to know about when you acquire something is when you're acquiring it, it kind of goes into a state of like lull. And this is the way that they can like acquire like a really dangerous animal without it like fucking wrecking them while they're touching it. And so it kind of like temporarily pacifies this howler. And then they fucking boot it off a building and it fucking dies. Which is pretty fucking metal, but you do what you gotta do, especially when you're halfway across the galaxy. And so
Oh no, baby! I didn't root for you. I was just
Yeah.
acquiring your animal.
it's fine.
It's
So
fucking sick.
they find out that they basically everything is on for sale on the Iskarut homeworld, including memories. Memories are a big trade deal on the Iskarut planet. Memories are super valuable. So what they do is they trade their memories for memories of other howlers to learn what they're like. And they find out that they're a hive mind created by Krayak himself. So they all collectively have thousands of years of battle experience, which is why they're so fucking strong. All of them have the experience of each other.
Also, they're made of fucking magma. That
Yeah.
helps. Also.
Definitely. So what happens is that their plan is like, well, the howlers are stronger than anything we have to fight them. So let's morph a howler, So they do that. Jake morphs the howler that he acquired, and he realizes that they're children. They have no idea what they're doing. Krayak has like created them to just like think everything is just a fun little playtime game. They have no idea what death is or anything. It's all just, and they murdered a kid essentially without realizing it.
It sounds exactly like Pyro from Team Fortress 2. He perceives the world in a delightful, happy-go-lucky way.
Why do I answer you when you put God damn
That
it.
wasn't a question.
I know, but I just should ignore you from now on. So what their plan to win is that, like, okay, they're a hive mind, so if we can, now I've morphed a howler, my memories will now become part of their hive mind, and they will realize what they're doing and how fucked up it is. And so once Krayak catches on that this is their plan, he murders all the other howlers before that information can become part of the hive mind, thereby allowing them to win the conflict.
Hooray!
Wow.
Yeah.
All
So-
the children
All the
died.
other children died. Yeah. Super fucked, right? Super fucked.
More crimes! More crimes! More crimes! More crimes!
This is the part where I remind you these books are written for 9-year-olds.
Wait,
They could die too, just like the Howlers.
what was the logic? Why did he decide to kill all of his own team members, thus losing the game instantly?
Well, I think it was that they became useless once they were like infected with like the
Right.
knowledge of the reality of like.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they
were
realize
doing it.
the
Like,
context
they're already
of
dead
what
to
they're
him,
doing.
basically. Like,
And he kills the ones there before that information can spread to the rest of the hive mind,
Okay, that
and
makes
therefore
sense.
ruin all of his shock troop,
Okay.
is the idea. And they find out that the reason the Iskarut are being battled over like this is because the Iskarut are actually Yeerks. There are species of Yeerks that split off from the main Yeerks thousands and thousands of years ago, and instead of becoming a parasitic species, they created artificial hosts and have a symbiotic relationship with them. So, if they ever came into contact with the Yeerks, there'd be another path for the Yeerks to take besides infestation. And so the Elamist wants that to eventually happen to kind of pacify the species of the Yeerks, while the Krayak wants them out of the way because he likes the Yeerks destroying stuff because that's his MO.
So the goofy shells or whatever, are those like robots? Or are they
They're
some
just like a artificial kind of like biological construct
Okay.
that the Yeerk
They can possess.
the Iskarut Yeerk themselves use as a
There's the
host.
fucking answer to our problems right there.
Yeah. Right.
Damn. Okay.
So that's why the Elamist wants them.
Peace movement is coming.
Indeed.
It's actually unrelated.
Oh,
You would think, right? But like, I don't know. Well,
I feel like the Iskruts are about to get wiped out.
well, here's the thing. The Elamist is like playing on a time scale like unrelated to the rest. Like he says in this book that like, because like in like 300 years they will collide, and once they do, it'll drastically change the direction of the Yeerk species in general. So like this is like a super long game play
So
for him.
in some way, we have like a guaranteed happy ending if that is to remain true.
Sure, but like,
I mean,
Out of-
for the universe,
Right.
not for humanity.
Humanity could get wiped out before that potentially,
Right.
or
you
something.
never fucking know.
Can
Okay.
we get to the part where Vista 3 did nothing wrong, by the way? It's starting to seem like everyone has done
I don't know
everything
about
wrong.
that.
It
I don't
needs
think
to be
it's
about
coming.
20% cooler.
I might have been lying, and the shirt might be propaganda. All right. So we don't have to talk too much about the Yeerk peace movement. There's basically just a Yeerk named Aftran, who from way earlier in the series, like temporarily gained control of Cassie, but they kind of like vibed on the fact because like Aftran was a Yeerk that wanted to just escape the conflict. She didn't want to fight. And so they kind of like Cassie let her go because she's a fucking tree hugger, even though the rest of the team didn't want her to. And she just comes back here, and you find out that there is like now a pretty significant coalition within the Yeerk Empire that wants the war to stop. And they come back later eventually in like the end game sort of. But that's basically it. Is that there's just this peace movement that's happening. There's like a bunch of Yeerks now that like don't want to keep fighting because like again they are the underdogs in this conflict. It's an uphill battle they are fighting, and the book is just like Aftran gets captured, and if they probe Aftran and figure out what she knows, they'll know about them, and they're not in the events. Blah blah. So they go rescue her, and. She can't go back to her planet or anything because they find out she's a traitor. So they actually give Aftran the morphing ability and have her morph into, I believe it's a whale, and she just lives her life as a whale Nothlit, just to escape the war, like live peacefully.
So she's a not. I was gonna say, if you're a Yeerk and you become and you can morph, do you have
It needs
to
to be
go
about
to
20%
the
cooler.
pool every 3 days still, or like what does the timer stop counting down when you're not a Yeerk? Or is that do they
I
just
would
never come butt up against
It's
that
never
issue?
brought up.
Okay.
I would assume there's probably still a time limit, just like you would still have to eat food, whether
Yeah.
you're in human form or not.
Yeah.
The Yerk finally morphs into a whale, and it's like, thank you guys, you saved my life. I can kind of go live my
Instantly
life. It's like,
killed.
yeah, harpoon comes
Yeah.
off, and there's a
Boom.
Nippon soldier getting ready to.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past the series.
Yeah.
Like, it's sunk to lower depths. Who fucking knows? Alright, just quickly, the anti-morphing ray is an invention made by Visser 3. He tries to basically make a technology that will force demorphing.
Hey, man, not cool, dude.
Not fucking cool, right? So they first are just like, how are we going to destroy this thing? And they're like, fuck, we can't destroy it, because if we do, he'll know that it works and that we're afraid of it. So we can't do that. We have to find a way around this without like tipping him off that this is like actually a good idea. So what they decided instead, they're like, Tobias is a hawk. We will have him acquire axe and morph an andalite, and so when they try and demorph him, nothing will happen because he's a hawk, and they'll think it doesn't work. And so this is a great idea, and does work, but unfortunately they're not able to rescue him once he's there, and he's brutally tortured for a fucking long time, and is like mentally scarred forever.
War crimes.
War crimes.
War crimes. War crimes.
And he never recovers, and there's like a whole book of dealing with
God,
like the
great.
fallout.
What do you mean he never recovers?
There's a whole book where he just talks about like he's still like fucked up by this whole experience, and it haunts him all the time, and like he's like again trying to like run away from the consequences. It's just so fucking bad. Everybody's broken by the end of the series, pretty much. Okay.
It
Then we
needs to be
have
about 20%
the
cooler.
Panda's cute.
Dude, I love pandas so much. Okay. Oh god, this is a fucking weird one. Okay, the Hork-Bajir Rebellion. This is like, you find out, they go check up on, the free Hork-Bajir, and they freed up here. They find out that Jarahame and Ket had a child who's named Toby. Toby's named after Tobias because Tobias was the one who helped free them. And Toby, like Dak, is a seer. So Hork-Bajir, they age pretty rapidly and they don't live pretty short lifespans. Kind of like Solarians, but dumb instead of smart. So, Toby has been, unbeknownst to the Animorphs, staging like attacks on the Yeerks to free more of their people. So there's a whole little fucking colony of free Hork-Bajir just chilling in this fucking crazy thing with everybody. And they didn't expect that, but they want to basically join the fight and like free the rest of their people. But they can't do it because they don't have any weapons. And then some really fucking weird shit happens. So the Arn from the Hork-Bajir Chronicles finds their way to Earth and is like, how? I don't fucking know.
I'm sorry, what was
Remind me who the Arn is?
The Arn are the advanced race of species that lived in Father Deep that created the Hork-Bajir.
Right.
And so,
Like a precursor to the.
Grandfather alien.
They literally created the Hork.
yeah, they genetically created the Hork-Bajir in order to manage their planet. So the Arn is still alive.
When you say the what do you mean? Like a couple members of the species?
There's a couple of them, but there's one Arn that comes to Earth.
Okay.
He has a name. I don't remember what it is. I didn't write it down. It was like
Fine.
fucking
Mr. Arn.
yeah. Mr. Arn comes to Earth, and like I guess has somehow found out that this whole rebellion thing is happening, and he wants to basically arm the rebellion. The Arn wants to arm them. There's a secret cache of weapons back on the Hork-Bajir homeworld from the rebellion, and Aldrea, the Andalite from Hork-Bajir Chronicles, knows where it is, but she's dead, and so
she knew, yeah.
she knew where it was, but he made like a fucking construct that has her consciousness in there.
Oh, right.
So you can find out where it is, but it needs a host in order to inhabit. So Cassie takes on the consciousness of Aldrea and leads them to this weapon cache.
Synthetic consciousness, right?
Yeah, it's this copy of her consciousness created synthetically that needs a host body in order. So like she has two consciousnesses in her mind. And they go to the planet and they find the weapon cache. Yeah, it's a whole big thing. There's a lot more to that, but that's the basic part, is that, like, the Hork-Bajir are prone to, like, fucking do shit. Okay. We're almost done. Cool. We're getting to the end.
But we're only like
Prediction
halfway
for
through
the end. War crimes.
Things must accelerate, I assume.
The endgame part here is, like, the last couple books. A lot of the last couple books, this is where they're all majority ghost written. A lot of them are just filler.
It needs to be
Really?
about 20%
Yeah, I
cooler.
mean, they're interesting stuff, but most of the content of them don't have a lot to do with the main story. That's kind of like my biggest complaint is that like things start to pick up and then there's just gaps of just like kind of does a Steven universe, you know, sort of thing. We're balls deep in something and then it's like let's check up on the fucking humans. Like I don't fucking care. Not enough to be uninteresting, but there's like an underlying like I want to fucking see how the fuck it's
Did you already talk about Visser?
We're doing that right now.
Okay.
So Visser is another one of the Chronicles books. This is the only book in the series from the perspective of the Yeerks. And this is the story of Visser 1 and how she found Earth and basically started this entire fucking shit. So there's two stories going on in Visser essentially at the same time. The first story is a trial of Visser 1 because after the failure on Lyra and a bunch of other shit, she's basically seen as a traitor. And so they're putting her on trial to see if her allegiances really lie with humanity, or not with humanity, with the Yeerks, or if she's kind of been fucking them over. And the accuser is Visser 3, because remember, they hate each other. So he's like jonesing for the opportunity to fucking knock her down a few pegs. And basically gain control of the invasion on Earth, because he has a whole other set of ideas of how he wants to do this. The second story is the backstory to how Visser 1 found Earth, because she's basically giving her testimony of what happened and all that kind of stuff.
Is this where we meet Visser 2 by any chance?
Not yet. He's not in this.
Really?
It's literally just them two for the most part.
That's weird.
The book starts with Visser 1 as like a lowly fucking sub-Visser, like sub-Visser like a couple hundred something, like really fucking in a backwater fucking post in the middle of nowhere. And the whole book starts with back in the Andalite Chronicles when they found out about Earth, they relayed a message. And it was Visser 1 at the time, fucking nobody, who received the transmission.
It needs
And
to be about
goes out
20%
to try and
cooler.
find this fucking Class 5 planet. And she takes one of her subordinates, SM-293, and they go together on a bug fighter and go looking for this planet against the orders of her superiors, because they think that this is like either an exaggeration or bullshit or not real. And she's determined to make a name for herself and rise through the ranks by being the hero who finds the mythical Class 5 species and becomes like the best.
Woo! Yay.
Noble goes.
I guess that's what happened.
So they get to Earth and they find like, oh my god, there's billions of fucking people here and they're fucking cavemen. This is like perfect. Like we got it fucking locked in. And so they kind of go down there. They land in the middle of the fucking Gulf War and they're like, I mean, these are like effective weapons. They could kill our shock troopers and stuff, but like we still got a fucking edge on these guys. So basically the idea here is that the Yeerks just think humans are fucking crazy. Because like our brains are just like so chaotic and like there's like they have two hemispheres and they're like two different sides of things and they're like communicating back and forth and like there's so much overstimulation, there's so much conflict in these minds that you don't know what to do. They're fucking nuts. They just think we're insane. You also realize that Yeerks don't really have much in terms of culture, considering like the fucking huge fucking technological spike, going from like basically nothing to like space travel. They like watch like television. And they don't understand why you would do this. They're like, why would you make up all these weird lies? And like at first they watch Star Trek and they're gonna fucking murder us. We're gonna get destroyed. How do they travel without
It
fucking
needs
zero
to be about
space?
20% cooler.
So they just like they don't understand like culture like that. They don't understand art. They're kind of like solely focused on getting bodies right now, and their culture hasn't really evolved into anything more like entertainment or anything like that. They're very mission focused, clearly. So. Visser 1, whose name is Idris, I believe Idris 493, not really that important. Idris is fascinated by this fucking crazy madness that is humanity. He's determined to study us, figure out our weakness, and deliver us to the Council of 13 and become God.
It needs to be about 20%
She
cooler.
spends like a year on Earth with Essam, her subordinate, and they take on a couple different hosts. It's implied that they're like in Hollywood. They like take the hosts of like these like actors and like producers and stuff, and so they kind of get a better understanding of like how human culture works. And this is where Visser 1 figures out that like we all have this innate desire to belong. Like, we all want to be part of something bigger than ourselves, and we all have like this. You know, that's kind of the chink in our armor, so to speak. And that's where the idea for the sharing and everything comes from, like the subtle infiltration. But like her fascination,
For
and
them.
Essem's fascination
For
with
me.
humans kind of goes like a little too
Equestria.
far. Because remember, Yerks have never dealt with hosts as complicated psychologically as human beings. So they start like getting really invested in human culture because it's like so fucking different from their own. And her and Essem actually conceive a child together, like their hosts.
Oh, okay.
Damn, that's
And so
fucked up.
Visser 1 has 2 children. And it's you realize that not only is the reason they're trying to like subtly infiltrate Earth is because like we just outnumber them so much, but it's because she doesn't want her children to die in the conflict.
For me.
And so Visser 1 during the trial finds one of her children and brings them up and says,
Oh,
look what you
God.
fucking did. And so there's this whole big like battle of like fucking like betrayals and stuff going on during this trial as Visser 1 tries to discredit Visser 3 and vice versa, and they're going at it. Like at one point Visser 3 like sicks a bunch of animals on them and kills them to make it look like he's killed the Andalite bandits to make his presence look better. But because Visser 1 at this point is Marco's mom, she like sneaks out, gets a cell phone, is like, Marco, it's Visser 1, come attack. You need to save your mom. And so the real Animorphs come in, and then everyone realizes Visser 3 is like a liar, so then he gets put on trial as well.
Oh, boy.
It's fucking madness. It's crazy. There's so much more. This book is like so fucking good. Like if you only read one book, read this one. It's so fucking great. I don't even want to spoil too much, especially since we don't have a lot of time. But basically, to wrap it all up, is that both of them, both Visser 1 and Visser 3 are found guilty and are sentenced to die.
Oh.
But
Lol.
they're too valuable to kill right now because they're in the middle of
So
so much
finish your post.
fucking shit. So they're just like, if you fuck up again, you're both dead. So Visser 1 is reassigned to a different
Yep,
planet
everything's
to infest. Because she has too much emotional ties here. It's clearly not fucking going.
Compromise.
So a planet called Enai, which is like another, which is not gone into in very much detail, but that's like where she goes. And then Visser 3 is put in charge of the invasion on Earth, which means things start to accelerate much more quickly. Because here's the end game. This is when things are gonna get really fucking crazy. So things really start to become vastly accelerated when Marco's dad, who's an engineer.